Hello everybody, I'm Mauro Boldi, the CEO of Ugo Basile. I'm very glad today to host here in our Italian headquarters the new Hot Cold Plate webinar dedicated worldwide. Both webinar and Q&A session will be handled by our scientific director, Dr. Federico Montechiaro. Thanks for attending this first edition of a series of Ugo Basile webinar. Enjoy!
Good morning, everybody. My name is Federico Montechiaro, I'm Scientific Director at Ugo Basile, and welcome today to this webinar on the new Hot Cold Plate. Here a quick summary of today's agenda. We'll go through the main applications of the Hot Cold Plate and the evolution of the technique through the years, the novelties of the new Hot Cold Plate versus the previous model, the features and benefits of the new Hot Cold Plate, and then a demonstration of the keypad use, which is probably the main innovation of this tool, the touchscreen menus and the result page, which have been completely redesigned, how to export a file into Excel, the use of the included PC software, the Xpad, to create complex temperature ramps. So, there is a lot to say about the Hot Cold Plate. This application is still one of the gold standards in pain research. It was invented back in the 40s, and the big advantage is that the animal is unrestrained. So it is still really one of our best sellers, and the amount of citations in bibliography tell you that it's still widely used in all thermal sensitivity experiments, from inflammation to neuropathic animal models. Hyperalgesia and allodynia, especially cold allodynia for the specific type of cold receptors. And in terms of how the device did evolve through the years, we started with simple devices with hot, constant temperature in which the animal was placed for a certain amount of time, and the latency to the first hindpaw licking was scored. Then the cold dimension was added, and the first hot cold plate were released into the market by Ugo Basile. The next step into the experimental methods was to use a ramp, an increasing or decreasing temperature in order to discriminate, for example, allodynia and hyperalgesia, and there is a lot of interesting literature on the topic. What we can do with our Hot Cold Plate is also complex ramps. So ramps which we will show later in this webinar, where you can construct increases and decreases of temperature through a PC-based software. One of the complexities of this test is the variability that you can see in the literature about how to score the endpoints. So when does the animal show the nociceptive behavior? Probably the most used and the most classic one is the latency time to hindpaw licking. However, there are several papers where the number of licks in a time windows are scored, jumping is scored, or even vocalizations, which is probably the most extreme sign of nociception, is scored. This variability is one of the reasons why we decided to add a keypad through which one can, by touching the keys on the keypad, score the endpoints, but also score all the stereotyped behaviors that the animal shows during the experiment. So let's go quickly through the novelties, which are many, of this new device. So first of all, as I was saying, the keypad. This is how it looks on the top right corner of the screen, the default parameters we have. So if you press the key enter, you will score a licking. With the one you will score the scratching, then jumping, grooming, vocalization, raring, immobility, climbing, shivering, and twitching. And these are all modifiable. So these are the default behaviors which can be changed by you very simply through the keypad. Our hot call plate has always been famous for being very silent. We made it even more silent than before in this version. We added a feature which is a ramp and on-off. So basically, at the end of a ramp, you can, or at the end of a test, you can decide if the instrument will keep the temperature or if it will go off. This is very useful when you have many animals and maybe there is a gap in time between one animal and the other, and you want the plate to stay at the same temperature, not to waste time, and therefore increasing your throughput. The touchscreen menus have all been completely redesigned. It is much more intuitive than before, and there are new features and menus we will go through. On the touchpad screen, on the upper right corner, there is an help feature, so you basically can see all the definitions of the buttons that you have on the touch screen in that moment. That's very useful as well. And as you know, we measure the ambient temperature also. The sensor for the ambient temperature before was in a position that we changed. So now it is much more external to the Peltier devices that generate the heat and the cold, and therefore the accuracy of the ambient temperature sensor has been increased. You will see in one of the next slides that there is now a red line which overlaps a gray line, where the gray line is the temperature you have set, and the red line is the actual temperature of the plate, so that you can take a look and check at any point in time that the plate is delivering the temperature you want. A simple but very requested feature was the possibility to change the temperature unit from Celsius degrees into Fahrenheit, and so now this is possible. We have also changed the result screen and the Excel export, which now includes all the events that you have input through the keypad with a start and an end, so that through this Excel file, as we will show later on, you can measure also the duration of this event. There is also a feature to unload an experiment, so that if you have created one, you can unload it very simply instead of having to delete it. And there is an ethical temperature warning, so a warning if you are exceeding what we consider a temperature which respects the welfare of the animal. So, going to the software, again, the keypad events. So, the support of the new external keypad provides the possibility to edit the animal behaviors that are shown as a text in the result file. As I said before, these are the default behaviors, and this can be changed very simply through the touchpad. As I said, the operation is now even more silent through the modification of the position of the sensor. So the animal is less disturbed than before, and the amount of noise is about 70 dB. This is the temperature graph I was mentioning before. Here you can see it in a constant temperature type of experiment. So you have this gray line with the red line overlapping exactly in the same position. That means that the plate is delivering the temperature you have set. The ETR is actually the time remaining to reach the temperature you want to start the experiment. So in this case, for example, the starting temperature was set at 25, and in the screen you can see 22.1, and the system is telling us that it will take 52 seconds to reach this temperature, and at that point you can start the experiment. So the software ramp end mode, as I was mentioning before, it allows to stop the heating and the cooling, to maintain the temperature, to not maintain the temperature, to stop maintaining the temperature, or to keep the temperature. If the temperature is kept, you can save time while testing multiple animals without having to wait for the temperature to be reached again between animals. I was also mentioning the integrated help. You can see the orange arrow and the eye icon. If you press that, the system will show you all the buttons that are on the touch screen in that screen, which allows you not to have to go through the manual all the time, but you can see all the definitions directly on the touch screen. So the new ambient temperature sensor, we mentioned it before. It is now even more precise. It is placed outside of the device inside box at the rear part to avoid internal temperature generation, which would make it less accurate. Here again, the orange arrow shows the button to change the temperature from Celsius degrees into Fahrenheit degrees. And here an example of the touchpad results screen. So here it has been completely redesigned for a more clear understanding of the endpoints. So you can see the latency here, it was 0 because we didn't run the test, but you input the treatment, the ID, the protocol, the stage, the trial, and you have the temperature and the ramp parameters. How to export into Excel? Very simple. The system saves into the USB key, which is provided together with the hot cold plate package. You simply plug it in here, and you upload the data here. Then you plug it into your computer, and you can simply load it into Excel. And once you have done this, basically what happens is that you will see both the latency time, which has been calculated by pressing the pedal here. So the pedal is still here to start and stop the experiment. And you also have, as you can see from this table, all the events. So for example, here you can see the leaking start and its latency time, the leaking end and its latency time. So this was 1 second leaking duration. And then all the other ones, the scratching, the jumping, and so forth. This will be more clear when we show the real experiment that we will do later in this webinar. So very quickly, the specifications, and this presentation will be shared with all of you so that you can keep it if you want, as well as the recording of this webinar. So in general, we have both the commands and the readout through a 4.3 inches touch screen, resistive, which means you can use it with your lab gloves. The power requirements is global, so it can be used everywhere in the world. The sound level is 70 dB. It should be operated between 18 and 25 degrees in order to be able to deliver the -5 to 65 degrees Celsius, which the device is capable of delivering in terms of temperature. The detection is through the pedal switch, or can be done also through the touch screen. In terms of operation, we have a plate temperature range which goes from -5 to 65 in 0.1 degrees Celsius steps, an accuracy of ±0.2 degrees. The operating modes are fixed temperature, ramp, increasing or decreasing, of course, fast ramp, which is basically an exponential ramp going as fast as the device can, and the custom ramp. The silent mode is actually always active. It can be started and stopped, as I said, by the pedal or by the start and stop button on the touchscreen. The experiment duration is maximum 999.99 seconds. The data acquisition is through storage in the electronic unit or into the USB flash drive, so no need to connect a computer to the device. However, a PC software is available, and it is mainly used to input data on your animal vivarium, your treatment protocols, and so forth, in a more easy way than through the touchpad. And it is especially important to build custom ramps, as we will show later on during this webinar. So you can create your personalized protocols. The results are in the table in the CSV file which I showed you, and also on the touch screen. And then here you can probably see this connector, which reminds of a parallel connector. It actually has different pins which are explained in the manual for TTL input and output to manage the temperature output, starting and stopping the device. So what do you get if you buy a new hot cold plate? You get obviously the control unit, you get the cylindrical animal enclosure, Perspex made. This is the same for mice and rat. You get the lid. I would like to emphasize that we make custom heights. In some cases, people do not want to use the lid, and animals may tend to be able to jump out. So we can make it taller or shorter, depending on your requests. There is the pedal switch, which I showed you before. The USB external numeric keypad. And the only option which is not included as a standard, but is an optional, is the Bluetooth version of this keypad. There is a power code according to your country outlet, the USB pen drive, which contains the instruction manual, the quality control and warranty certificate. Now, the ordering information and options. The part number, the product number has changed. It's now 35300 for the complete package I just showed you. Then you have some options like an additional hot plate, like a set of tubes and catwalk for the temperature preference system, the wireless numeric keypad, and as I show here, through the set of tubes and catwalk and the additional hot plate, you can create a thermal temperature preference, or you can purchase already the system with the two units, a hot cold plate and a hot plate, to perform thermal place preference tests in a manual way or in an automated way through video tracking scoring, which we also provide. So a quick summary of features and benefits. The different ramps obviously provide flexibility into performing all types of experiments. The keyboard and the pedal allow the possibility to use the 10 keys and modify them and save the results in the electronic unit in order to gather information on the animal behavior, which was not captured before unless someone was videotaping the experiment. The range of temperatures is very broad, which allows to run any type of thermal sensitivity experiment. As I said, the sensor for the ambient temperature accuracy has been improved, as well as the silent mode, which gives less disturbance to the animal. No need to connect to a PC, thanks to the storage into the electronic unit and into the USB key. The automatic conversion of data into CSV file allow for opening very simply in Excel, and the PC software allows to create the animal vivarium, the treatments, the protocols, the trials, the animal ID, and everything very quickly, and to create custom apps. So these are the company and my personal contacts for any questions, and we will now go to the next stage of this webinar, where we will show you how the system works in the touchpad, and we will then run an experiment and build a custom ramp and look into data export. Thank you. Okay, we will now go through a full experiment by showing you also all the menus of the completely new redesigned touch panel software. And as you can see here, we are on the main screen. When you turn on the instrument, we have the USB key, we have the new keypad, and we have the footpad pedal to start and stop the experiment. So, if we click here, we enter into the main menu, and into the main menu we have the experiment part, where we can insert the treatment, and we can say, for example, okay, it's a knockout. We can say the protocol is the protocol webinar. The stage is the stage number 1, and the trial is the trial number 1, and the animal ID is A, B, C, 1, 2, 3. Okay, we go back, and we have the temperature mode, and this is one of the most important screens. As you can see here, the help shows you what the different modes do. So constant mode, linear ramp, exponential ramp, and custom ramp. I'm gonna work now with a linear ramp for this example, and you can see basically how to start a ramp experiment by basically setting an initial temperature. The plate temperature now is 22.9. The temperature in the lab is 23.4. I will put a final temperature of 50 degrees. So as you can see now, the ramp duration is going to be 931 seconds. So we can start the ramp experiments, and by pressing reach, it will go and reach this temperature. In order to make, the estimated time is actually 9 seconds. So it will go So now I am ready because I have the initial temperature ready, and I can start. And as you can see, we can now see the ramp and the red icon showing that I'm heating up. Otherwise it will be blue if I'm cooling down. And you can see the red line progressing as the duration of the test to reach the temperature will be now more than 900 seconds. At this point, I can start using, for example, the keypad. If the animal is now showing here what behavior is doing. For example, now the animal is grooming, and I'm keeping it pressed, as you can see, until it does it. Or the animal could be scratching. or the animal could be jumping, or vocalizing, or rearing, or being immobile, or climbing, or shivering, or twitching, and we don't expect yet that at this moment the animal will be leaking, right? Which is the behavior we can score with the keypad, but then at the same moment we will score at the moment when the temperature has reached a level which is very uncomfortable for the animal and stimulates the hind paw leaking, which is normally the normal endpoint, and we would just press the pedal. Or if the animal starts leaking and we measure the frequency of leaking, we press here a number of times, as I'm doing now. And the software will basically give me all these events. And so we can wait for the temperature to increase, and imagine that at a temperature above 40-45 degrees, the animal may be starting leaking his hind paws. Obviously, if we have an inflamed animal, or if we have an hyperalgesic or allodynic animal, this value would be much lower. So now, for sake of not making this webinar too long and too boring, as you can see, the red line is exactly over the gray line, which shows you the accuracy of the device. And now in a second I'm going to press the pedal, and you can see that the system will start. Okay, so I've pressed the pedal, and the device is basically telling me what was the temperature of the plate. Now it's going down because it was not configured to keep the temperature, and so forth. So if I now press stop and go back, I can again show you the other ways that are the fast ramp, so the exponential fast one, the custom ramp that I will show you how to create in the XPad software. Okay, a custom ramp is not loaded. Okay, so I can then start an experiment from here or from the pedal. Again, here it gives you the constant mode for the session 2 or the help, as I showed before, for all the different parameters, which is very handy to know what the screen shows. In the results, we actually made a test with knockout treatment, ABC 123 animal, protocol webinar, stage 1, trial 1, an offset of 0.4 degrees, a temperature of 25.3 degrees, and the ramp parameter of 20 to 50. And here, as we scroll down, we can see all the events which we recorded through the keypad. So, if we now go back, we can see some of the utilities, and then I'll show you the USB storage part. So in the utilities, we have the change of the measuring unit in Fahrenheit or degrees. So now I've changed it into Fahrenheit, and I go back into Celsius. The keypad events here, as you can see, we have, for example, the default ones, but we could change and call immobility, for example, call it freezing, stereotyped behavior. So this is fully configured. The rampant mode is set on off. In fact, you probably noticed that when I pressed the pedal, the temperature immediately started going down because it was not set on. If it was set on, it would have kept the temperature for the next test. The date and time, okay, this is set correctly for now, and the device setup also gives an update for the firmware, a diagnostic cycle, which is something that you normally do in the factory, a temperature offset that you can put. Here it was put at 0.4 degrees, you can put it at 0 degrees and to see it just as it looks like, and an erase database to just clean up all the data you have in the unit. Now, the last part, which I haven't shown you, is the USB storage part. So I'm now going to put the USB stick, which comes with the device, and I'm going to basically say export results. If I would say unload experiment, it would just cancel all the data that I input. And if I say load experiment, it would load a complex ramp or a vivarium of animals, which we can show through the PC expand that we will show you later on. So I now export the results. The results have been successfully saved onto the USB storage. Okay. So I can now go to the main menu. I can take the USB key and plug it into the computer. Okay, so we plugged in our USB key, and as you can see, we have a number of columns which show basically everything which happened. It was a session number 1, the date and time. The event code is actually a software code in order to recognize the start and end of the different events. So as you can see, it's basically each one has a code, and then the end has the same code with 100 added. The treatment was the knockout, the protocol was the webinar, the stage 1, the trial 1, the ID, and here, as you can see, we have the latency for each event start, and for each event end. So here, for example, we know that this event has been lasting between 45.5 and 50.6 and so forth. Then we have the temperature of the plate, the temperature of the room, the mode in which we were, and we were in ramp mode, and in the end we have the offset that we were using, which was 0.4, the measuring unit, the initial temperature and the final temperature set. And the ramp duration, which if we would have waited until 50 degrees would have been 935 degrees. So basically what happened in this case was that we have a final temperature of 30.8 and a latency time of 222 seconds. This would be the final endpoints, plus all the events that have been recorded through the keypad. Now the last part is to show you the XPad software and how to populate the vivarium through that, and how to create a complex ramp. So as you can see here, we are in complex ramp creation mode. We go into the ramp palette and we put a duration of a ramp, for example, let's say 40 seconds. We are now at 25 degrees and we say that we want to increase it to 50, for example. Okay. And it tells us that to do this quick increase in temperature, we require a longer time. So we put 120 as the software suggests us. And we have another ramp. Now we can put, again with the palette, we are now at 50 degrees. We can stay at 50 degrees for 60 seconds, for example. And then we can start a decreasing ramp in which from this temperature we go, for example, to 15 degrees. And the duration here is going to be quite long. And in fact, it's going to tell us you need at least 513 seconds. And we put 513 seconds. Okay. At this point, we are at 10. And let's say that we want to, again, go down even more. And go from 15 to, for example, 5 degrees. And let's see how much time we need. We need 300 seconds to do this. And now it's going to be at 5. And as you can see now, we have created a ramp. We will make a ramp file for the device. The ramp file can be saved as an RCR. I'm now saving it on the USB key and call it webinar custom ramp. Save it. So we've now created a custom ramp through the XPad PC software, which is included in the standard package of the hot cold plate. And what we will do now is upload this ramp into the hot cold plate. So we go into the temperature mode menu. We go into custom ramp. We go into load ramp. As you can see, I've saved it as webinar custom ramp RCR. Okay, and the XPad custom ramp has been successfully loaded. So I can start the experiment now, for example, and as you can see, the plate is going down because the initial temperature is 20, and you will see when it starts, when it reaches the initial temperature, we will be able to actually start the experiment, and you will see the ramp we have created itself. Just a few more seconds, and we can now start. And this is the custom ramp we have created. You can see the green line, and you can see the red line going up. So there are different segments that are indicated by these vertical lines. So here I've done from 20 to 25, from 25 to 50, then some seconds at 50, then again back to 20 and then down at 5. And the estimated time is 1000 seconds to do this number. So this is how to create a complex ramp, a unique feature of the Ugo Basile Hot cold plate. We have seen a lot of novelties, and I think we can open it now for questions and answers.